Show. You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Looking down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
On this Tuesday, got Jacob back and Casey Gaines back there on the ones and twos. Glad you're hanging out with us. Got a lot to get to. Our normal Tuesday segments coming at you here. Shortly, Glenn West, Go 24/7, talking LSU football and basketball with Glenn. Sharie Isacks from WDSU going to be with us at 2:30 to talk about the Saints and the troubles there, as well as the Pelicans, who are moving on in some tournament. Awesome news for them, I guess. We'll talk to Sharie about that at 2:30. Ross Dellinger has a big piece out about a proposal from the head of the NCAA that would be a major change in college athletics. That's coming up at 2 o'clock. The AP has announced it's all SEC teams. That's coming up in 15 minutes. I'll tell you what I think LSU needs to do in the transfer portal is that's rocking and rolling in college football this week. But we will start today with Brian Kelly in his meeting with the local media as LSU has gotten its bowl opponent and announcement. There is some news on the Heisman Trophy, obviously, as Jaden Daniels is headed to New York. And so there was a lot that Brian Kelly got to, but I wanted to, in this segment, kind of keep it curtailed to Kelly's thoughts on the next month of the calendar, because it has certainly changed a lot over the last 10 years. 10 years ago at this time, you would have your regular season in the rearview mirror. You would have your bowl assignment. You would bring your entire team to that bowl game. You would be working on some visits and some communications with players you were trying to sign in February in your recruiting class. And you'd be conducting practices to get ready for a bowl game. Well, now you've got the transfer portal absolutely out of control. You've got staff changes that are happening all over the country. You've got players opting in or opting out of bowl games. You've got practices. You've got the ability to sign a recruiting class in December, which you never did. And so this is gone from, business as usual, kind of a winding down of your football season, to maybe the busiest spot in the entire calendar for college football coaches. So Brian Kelly spoke to, okay, when are you going to start preparing for Wisconsin?
We will begin our practice on Monday, our first practice, which will give us 15 practice opportunities prior to the first game. It'll give us approximately 17 meetings. It'll give us 4 to 5 weight training opportunities. So ample opportunity for us to continue to develop our football players and certainly prepare ourselves against a Wisconsin opponent that we're excited, obviously, and want to be able to put our best foot forward.
So they'll start practicing coming up next week, and that's pretty normal. They're going to go through final exams this week, obviously doing your weightlifting and all those kind of things, and you start to prepare for the bowl game next week. That's not totally out of what was normal. Now, what is new is who's playing in the bowl game, because at this point, you never really know. Nobody played for LSU 2 years ago. Nobody played for Purdue last year. Ohio State's playing in a pretty big bowl game this year. They're not going to have their quarterback, it doesn't look like. Now you have to realize, who is actually going to play in this bowl game so that you can, start to practice. So Brian Kelly spoke to that process and understanding, okay, who's still with us?
I think we have a really good sense of the players that will be available for the bowl game. For me to stand here and tell you exactly what those players are, I couldn't do that. But I would say that we spent all of last week doing exit interviews with our players. So we feel like we're in a pretty good position relative to who we think is playing. And any of that information, will come out here in the next week or so.
And look, I think those exit interviews probably used to come in January when, the season was over. But now you've got to move that entire process up because, one, it allows you to know who's going to play in this game coming up. And two, if guys are not going to play in the bowl game, they're going to leave your program. You're now going to have to fill those spots with either freshmen where your class is kind of rounding into form here, or the transfer portal, which is where you would more than likely fill those needs. So that's something the information you need really early at this point, and Brian Kelly kind of feels like he has it. Now, this I thought was an interesting answer because I don't believe it would have been the same 10 years ago as it is today. What about using this month in terms of practice? How much of it is, hey, we got to beat Wisconsin, and how much of it is, hey, this season's kind of over, we got to figure out what we've got. We may need to develop some players for next football season, and part of that is just the Wisconsin game that we will play coming up here on January 1st. So where is that balance?
You're offered ample time to do that. I mean, if you really look at our schedule, beginning Monday through that entire week, that's really a transitional week for us to develop our players. And that entire week is going to be an opportunity to take some of the younger players that need more finishing and more developing and get them a lot of work. The following week, we can get to work on Wisconsin and then duplicate that work when we get down to the bowl site. So really, it's 2 weeks of Wisconsin work for those guys that are going to be playing a lot, and then a full week of development, technique work, and repetition for younger guys that need more development. Now, they may transition right into, first team, second team reps during those Wisconsin preparation periods as well.
So that first week of bowl prep is going to be about developing young players. I don't think you'll see Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas taking a ton of high-octane reps that week. Jaden Daniels probably not going to be doing that either. They'll be out there, maybe going through work, but it's going to be more geared towards getting guys that need work, some work when you're not having a game plan, and guys that, I don't even know if those guys are going to play in the bowl game. If they're not going to play in the bowl game, they're not going to be practicing. But we understand that we think that Malik Neighbors wants to get out there and get this receiving record, so he'll likely join you in the bowl game. So it's 1 week of development, and then you get into some game planning for Wisconsin. And so I think that's of note here, and that's something that LSU is going to put into practice here in the coming weeks. The final piece to this in terms of using this month and how do you advance your football program while getting ready for Wisconsin was the question was asked of Brian Kelly. As y'all are probably aware, they recently changed the rule where that you can only play in 4 games to keep your red shirt. The bowl game doesn't count. So, are there players on your roster that you may be able to get some reps and play and not count backwards against a red shirt?
When we're balancing our roster, I'll give you an example. The Howard kid, right? We held on to him at the 3-game max until A&M. And then we put him in against A&M, played pretty good. And so he used his 4th game in that last year. We're excited about playing him in the bowl game because he gets that extra game. And so that's what makes this even better, because once they gave us the extra game for the bowl, now you can play all of these guys that got to the limit of 4 and really let's see what they've got, because now they're a full semester or almost a full year in your program and they're ready to go out and compete. So I think that adds to it in terms of development and playing guys that have gotten their 4 games in.
So there are a few guys on LSU's team that this directly applies to. Kylan Jackson, freshman safety, has only played in 4 games. He can play in the bowl game and not burn a red shirt. Jackson Howard, as Brian Kelly just mentioned, has only played in 4 games. He can play in the bowl game, not burn a red shirt. Christian Brathwaite, linebacker, has only played in 4 games. He can play in this game and not burn a red shirt. So these are guys on the defensive side of the ball who will have the opportunity to go out there and play in this bowl game and not lose a year of eligibility, which I think is a really, really good thing. They're going to have to get it creative, in my opinion, with these bowl games if you want to keep my interest personally. Because when you've got coaches gone and coordinators gone and quarterbacks sitting out and the best players on every team leaving, and you've got a skeleton crew going to play in these games, my interest level's waning, I'll be honest. And so to get a chance to see some of these young players go out there and maybe get some meaningful reps, maybe Garrett Nussmeier plays the entire time in this game, and that would pique my interest in LSU person. It diminishes the quality of the viewing experience to the general football fan that wants to see the Heisman Trophy winner out there. But you've got to do everything you can to try to draw up some interest, in my opinion, in these bowl games. And I think having some of these freshmen go out there when they wouldn't have been able to under the previous rules, I think is a pretty good thing. So those were all Brian Kelly's thoughts on using this month for his football program, as well as getting ready for a football game. We're going to talk about a couple different things that Brian Kelly had to talk about later on in the show. We'll talk about Jaden Daniels' decision, Mike Denbrock being a Broyles Award finalist, just a couple of different things that Brian Kelly touched on that we'll get to a little bit later on in the show. If you're looking for something to do this evening, it's a Tuesday. That means I'll be at Pluckers on Nicholson. Plucker Sports Trivia every single Tuesday, 8:30. You're watching some hoops and hanging out, playing sports trivia. You can win gift cards, drink delicious cold beer, eat some awesome wings. Always a good time. 8:30, Nicholson location. We'll have you out of there by 10 o'clock at the Pluckers on Nicholson for sports trivia. All right, let's take a timeout. When we come back, what does LSU need out of the transfer portal? I'll let you know my thoughts next.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show.
Ready to get the NFL week started off right? Because right now, all customers can get a no-sweat same-game parlay for Thursday night football. Just place a 3-leg same-game parlay on this week's game between the Patriots and the Steelers, and you'll get bonus bets back if you don't win. NFL same-game parlays are the perfect way to combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payday. Build your own or choose from one of the popular same-game parlays pre-built for you in FanDuel's top-rated sportsbook app. Visit FanDuel.com/1045ESPN so you don't miss out on your chance to get a no-sweat same-game parlay on America's #1 sportsbook. FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Must be 21 and present in Louisiana. Refund issues and eligible bonus bets expire 7 days after receipt. Max refund $5 as otherwise specified. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. If you or someone who has a gaming problem wants help, call 1-877-770-STOP.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
The Dome, it's state championship week in high school football, and we get things started at 6 with Louisiana Prep Preview presented by Brock. And at 7, it's the select Division I state championship game between the Catholic High Bears and Acadiana Wrecking Rams. All right here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Glenn West, senior writer, Go 24/7, with us coming up in 15 minutes in his normal Tuesday spot. Talking LSU right now as well. Talking transfer portal. If you're paying attention, it is absolutely out of control, the amount of players that are jumping in the transfer portal from all over the country. Some making really quick decisions where they're headed. Some are taking a look around. That's just to be expected. And that's part of the culture of college football at this point. And so LSU's got to get involved in that in a big way. Now, what we don't know from LSU's perspective is just how many players on LSU's side are going to enter the transfer portal. We're just not sure yet. We've seen Trey Bradford jump in the transfer portal. Bryce Langston is in the transfer portal. There haven't been any high-level starting caliber players that have jumped, but you figure there's a likelihood that's going to happen. I'm not suggesting I know anything, but that's just the way things go in college football. So any thoughts that I have on what LSU needs in the transfer portal and where they need to go can change by the minute based on one player saying he's coming back or one player saying I'm going to the transfer portal, and that changes the way you've got to look at your roster. I feel like Brian Kelly's probably got a pretty good handle on that, as we just played in the last segment, but we don't, because we're not having those exit interviews. So my first thought when I think about what does LSU need to go be aggressive in the transfer portal and get is defensive line, specifically interior defensive line. Now, if Mekhi Wingo and Mason Smith tell me that they're both coming back, then that changes the discussion a little bit, because those are starting caliber players in the SEC. Wingo did it at an all-conference level, and Mason Smith started to come on a little bit towards the end of the year after that injury. If you take out your expectation level for Mason Smith, which I was a part of, I've talked up Mason Smith for 2 years. Brian Kelly has been a part of. He's talked up Mason Smith for 2 years, recruiting analysts and all that kind of stuff, slapped a 5-star grade on him. And so we all share a little bit of blame in that. But if you take that away and you just look at the production on the field, like, he got a little bit better as time went on, and there's reason to think that if he stays healthy in an offseason, he could come back and play better football next year than he has for the first 3 years that he's been on campus. Certainly being a freshman hampers that, and then coming off a major injury hampers that as well. So, but if you lose both of those guys, like, it's crisis mode at defensive tackle, because Jordan Jefferson's out of eligibility. He's moving on. I misspoke last week when I was talking about him having a year left. He played 6 years in the COVID year. That's the year that he returns, but he played in 19, then he played in 21, 22, and 23. So there's 4 years right here. By my understanding, Jordan Jefferson is out of eligibility. So, Jacobian Guillory is a nice depth piece. He can come back if he wants to. Jalen Lee can come back. He didn't play very much this year. Bryce Langston's in the transfer portal. You brought in Sean Washington in this signing class as a junior college player, and you figure that he can help. But, like, right now, if Mason Smith and Mekhi Wingo left, and I don't know if they are or not, you might have a starting defensive tackle tandem of Jacobian Guillory and Sean Washington. I'm not ready to go to battle with that, quite simply. So, in my estimation, LSU needs to work the transfer portal for a big-time defensive tackle prospect that can come in and potentially be a starter-level player. If you just need to add some depth and you can actually go into next year with Mason Smith and Mekhi Wingo and Jacobian Guillory and Sean Washington, and you've got 4 guys, then that's a good starting point. I'd still like to add another one. You just can't have enough big physical space eaters on the defensive front. I can find wide receivers and running backs pretty quick. It's harder to find interior defensive linemen that can play at an SEC level. So I would like LSU to go shopping in the transfer portal there. I think certainly the secondary is somewhere that I think the talent level needs to be raised a little bit, quite frankly. As I look at this roster, I see 13 guys who could very well be on the roster next year. Now, that's a lot of guys in the secondary. Sage Ryan, Javian Toviano, Ashton Stamps, Zy Alexander, Jeremiah Hughes, Major Burns, Jordan Allen as the freshman class, Juwan Johnson, Wallace Foster, Bernard Causey, Deshaun McBride, Joel Rogers, P.J. Woodland. Like, that's 13 guys, and that's a lot. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those are freshmen. And the other group is a group that you had out there this year, and I know they'll be a year older next year, but are you comfortable running that back? And I'm not. So they've got to find Mekhi Garner and Jarek Bernard-Converse again. They've got to go find at least one guy that you know can cover in the SEC. And I'll take safeties and nickels as well. Like Jordan Gilbert's in the portal. He's a U-High product who started at Texas A&M until he got hurt last year. Is an SEC-level player. Could you bring him back home? Fine. I don't want to get married to the fact that every time you go into the transfer portal and sign somebody, they played in Louisiana high school and you passed on them. But that was the case for Mekhi Garner and Jarek Bernard-Converse, and that worked pretty well. So you've got to find something in the secondary that gives you a little bit more than what you had this year. I'm good bringing Sage Ryan back, and maybe Javian Toviano and Ashton Stamps and Zy Alexander one more year playing in this LSU's program, kind of take a step and become the guys that you need. But I would really like to go into the transfer portal and find one or two that I felt really good about. And hopefully you hit on a freshman or two as well, and that defensive backfield kind of takes shape. And the last position I want to talk about, and I would take a quarterback out of the transfer portal too. There are very few positions where I would say you really don't need to do anything in the transfer portal there. If there's a good player available that's interested in you, LSU should be working that for sure, no matter the position. But there's one position that I think, based on a talent level, you wouldn't say LSU needs to get into the transfer portal. But maybe on a proven production level, it would make sense for LSU to hop in the transfer portal, and that's at wide receiver. You understand that Brian Thomas and Malik Neighbors are not going to be back next year. Now, Kyron Lacey can come back. Aaron Anderson can't go pro, so he's back. Chris Hilton can come back. And those are three guys who have played. Lacey was a really solid 3 this year. Maybe Anderson gets a little healthier and shows a little more burst. And Hilton stays healthy and is a really explosive player who's been kind of pushed down on the depth chart. And then you brought in a really talented group of freshmen this year. Shelton Sampson, 4 or 5-star, depending on where you look. Jalen Brown, unbelievable speed guy from Miami. Kyle Parker, kind of a technician who's a really good route runner, very productive over in Texas in his high school career. Kai Preen is a great athlete from right down the river. So that's a lot of talent right there with those 4 guys, but there's no proven production at all. And then you bring in a freshman class with Jelani Watkins and Kylan Billiot and Michael Turner. And that's a lot of numbers. That's 10 guys at wide receiver. And I didn't even mention Landon Ibieta there, who hasn't played very much. But if there's an all-conference guy from the MAC or somebody you can bring in from a big-time program that wants another look. I mean, Evan Stewart's looking around apparently and from Texas A&M. Like, if there's somebody like that that's available that I can pair with Kyron Lacey and then put Aaron Anderson and Chris Hilton and maybe 2 of those 4 that were freshmen this year, maybe Sampson and Jalen Brown emerge, and then you're ready. I don't know if you're Neighbors and Thomas, you're not Chasen and Jefferson. We're talking pie in the sky. You're not Beckham and Landry. But I think you can upgrade the proven production in that wide receiver room. Maybe they've seen enough in practice and they don't need to. But this one is a little different than the secondary and the D-line where you have to make changes. They simply weren't good enough. This is like, I just don't know. I don't know if LSU's got 4 good SEC receivers. I think the recruiting rankings would suggest that. The talent level would suggest that, but you just don't know. So that's where I wouldn't mind LSU finding a wide receiver in the transfer portal. And then I'll just toss in here this here at the end. Like, if LSU doesn't get a quarterback in the transfer portal, I think that's a mistake. I said last week I didn't think they would do it, and I still don't know if they will or not. But I think you need to. And even if it's just Spencer Sanders coming from Oklahoma State to Ole Miss and he sits on the bench, that's fine. Even if it's Texas A&M bringing in Max Johnson, even though you know Connor Wigman's the starter, that's fine. Depth is fine, especially at a proven level. So I'll take a transfer quarterback every single year if that's what it takes. And I realize that some people think that's going to scare off younger quarterbacks. Not fair to the guys you signed. It's going to send them out the door. Like, I don't care. It's the most important position, and I'm just not willing to have Garrett Nussmeier go down and then turn immediately to Ricky Collins, who's played 15 snaps. That's not where I think LSU should put itself. You need to add experience at the quarterback spot, and not all transfer quarterbacks start. Just rattled off a few examples right there. Took JT Daniels like 4 different stops to find a starting spot. If you don't win the job, you don't win the job. But I think that LSU should go to quarterback. So for me, secondary is where you got to start, and defensive line as well. Those two have got to be shored up with numbers and with talent. And then I would potentially look at some wide receivers, and you got to find a quarterback. Now, it may be hard to find a quarterback that's willing to show up with very little assurances of starting, but I would look into that in a big way. Transfer quarterbacks have had some success at LSU. There's going to be a second Heisman Trophy that shows up on Saturday to prove that. So you ought to have something pretty salty to sell there. So that's my look at the transfer portal for LSU. All right, we'll take a timeout. Glenn West to Go 24/7. I'll ask him what he thinks about LSU in the transfer portal. Ask him what he thinks about the bowl game and the Heisman Trophy, and maybe a little bit of basketball as well. So come back with us here on the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team been in the game remodeling and redesigning bathrooms and closets for 30 years. Safety in the bathroom, so important. It's a dangerous spot. Got wet floors. David Duvall and his team can put in non-slip floors. They can put in some handrails and guardrails around the toilet and shower areas. They can put in a walk-in tub. So if you've got someone that you love, or maybe you are aging and feel like there may be some danger in the bathroom, make it safer with One Bath and Closets. Thinking, I don't know if I can pay for that. Financing options always available. Get that free consultation. Go to OneBathAndClosets.com. You can see pictures of their great work. You can see their the testimonials from their satisfied clients, and you can request that consultation. David will come in. He can show you what he can do for you, lay out a plan, and they can execute it the first time and leave the competition behind. It's One Bath and Closets. The website again, OneBathAndClosets.com.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
It was a humid day, barefoot children play, looking for that summer shade. Time just slips away. Oh, Louisiana, some kind of hold on me. Like cypress stumps, your roots are planted deep inside of me. Oh,
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps are held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Hey, boat owners, check it out. It is the holiday season, which means it's time to buy yourself a gift by taking your boat to the next level with our friends at Front to Back Boat Service. Now is the perfect time to upgrade your boat and get it ready for that warmer weather, whether that's trolling motors, HD sonar, anything and everything. The Sherman family's been at it for 30 years, and Devin's going to take you through 30 more. Find them on Facebook at Front to Back Boat Service or go to fronttobackboatservice.com.
Moscona inviting you to join us for Tuesday's AFR, powered by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana. Brian Kelly meets with reporters to update bowl prep and the portal latest. And Sean Salisbury joins us. It's AFR 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Let's head out to the Jim's Firearms Hotlines where we find our guy Glenn West, senior writer at Go 24/7, covering LSU football, basketball, baseball, and recruiting. He joins us every Tuesday. Glenn, how are you?
I'm doing great, hon. How about you?
Doing well. Just announced that Phil Parker, Iowa defensive coordinator, has won the Broyles Award for the nation's top assistant coach. Mike Denbrock, of course, was a finalist for that award. You surprised?
No, I'm not. I'm not totally surprised. I mean, if there was a unit out there that probably could challenge LSU in terms of its, historic efficiency and how well it was doing, it would have been the Iowa defense. I mean, Iowa, the only reason they were in the Big Ten championship game is because of their defense and because they've been so consistent all year long. So, not totally surprised by it. I mean, I think Denbrock obviously had a really great case, leading this offense this year and the improvement that it showed. But Phil Parker is a very deserving recipient, I think, as well. So, it doesn't take away anything, I don't think, from what Denbrock and really the entire offensive staff was able to accomplish this year.
How many points would LSU at full strength score in Iowa?
Yeah, that's the question. We need Iowa's defense versus LSU's offense at full strength and let that play out. But I think LSU's offense could probably put up 30 points on Iowa. I mean, Michigan did it, just this last week. So LSU's definitely, I think, in that caliber of group as an offense.
I think LSU would score 40 on them. That's just my opinion on the matter. But I agree completely. A deserving recipient. Iowa was high comedy all year because of their offense. Their defense was quite salty. So let's look at the Heisman Trophy. Obviously, everyone's case has been made. Do you think there's any drama on Saturday?
I don't expect there to be too much drama. I would expect that this is Jaden's award to lose at this point. I mean, pretty much after the Pac-12 championship game last weekend, you saw all the odds completely flip into Jaden's favor and decisively so. I think that that gives you a good indication of where Vegas is at, and Vegas isn't usually wrong that badly about things. So I would say that Jaden's in a really good position. I think that a lot of national media certainly has jumped on board over the last couple weeks, and there just seems to be a lot of momentum for Jaden going in that way. So it should be a really good night. I'm looking forward to watching. Unfortunately, we'll not be making the trip to New York, but we'll get to watch from the comfort of home and get to see if LSU can't pull in another Heisman Trophy winner for the second time in 5 years.
How would you compare Jaden Daniels' final season to Joe Burrow's?
Yeah, I mean, look, they did it different stylistically, but I think that they were just about as equally dominant. I mean, it didn't really show, obviously, in the win-loss record, but that's the reason why the Heisman Trophy isn't a team award. And so, look, Joe obviously was a tremendously gifted passer back in 2019, and the numbers he put up will probably never be touched again from a passing perspective. But Jaden, I think, gave him a run for his money this year in terms of just how dominant he was week in and week out, not just with his arm, but with his legs as well. That was an element obviously that Burrow couldn't really compete with in terms of that with his legs. But, I thought that Jaden just, 1,100 yards rushing, almost 4,000 yards passing, 50 combined touchdowns. The stat that really blows me away, though, is I think he has a 146 or 136 passer rating on throws that are 20 yards or more. That's just incredible efficiency for the kinds of throws that he's making on a day in and day out basis. So very much deserving of what's to come his way. I think LSU obviously will be able to use that in recruiting and certainly in future seasons as they try to build this offense out and try to make it one of the go-to spots in all of college football.
On Friday, we'll learn the winner of the Blitnikoff Award for the nation's top wide receiver. Malik Neighbors is a finalist for that award with Marvin Harrison Jr. and Rome Odunze. Who do you think comes home with that one?
Yeah, I just think it's going to be Harrison. I think we had this conversation a little bit last week too, and I think just the name and the cachet that comes with Marvin Harrison over the last couple of years. I think there were some people equating it out there to maybe like a Grant Delpit a couple of years ago when maybe he didn't have the dominant 2019 season that he had in 2018, but people knew the name, obviously the successful season that they just come off of. And so, Delpit ended up winning the Thorpe Award that year. And look, Marvin Harrison's had a very nice year. I mean, I don't think that, anybody's out here saying that he hasn't been pretty good, but statistically, I don't think it's much of a conversation. I think that Neighbors has certainly been the best receiver stats-wise and, just been the most consistent. But I do think that the name and kind of the 2 or 3 year run that Harrison's been on would probably give him the edge for that award.
Chatting with Glenn West, senior writer over at Go 24/7 for all your LSU team coverage. You can check out Glenn there at Go 24/7. ReliaQuest Bowl, Wisconsin. What's your interest level?
Look, I think it's probably around the same as many of my other fellow media contemporaries who will be there. I'm interested to see just kind of how much into the future they lean into. I mean, obviously, I would be surprised if Jaden Daniels plays, for example. I think once Malik Neighbors gets his record, I would be surprised if he plays much more after he gets the record in that bowl game. Brian Thomas, we're not sure if he'll play or not. So there'll be some opportunities for younger guys, certainly we'll see what Kyron Lacey looks like in a bigger role. We'll see obviously what Garrett Nussmeier looks like after not having much opportunity this year, and deservedly so because of what Jaden was able to do. But I'll be interested to see kind of just over the next several days and weeks which players announce they're coming back, especially on the defensive side of the ball, and see if they can't build anything here over the next 10 to 15 practices that they'll have together to try to start at least crafting what things could look like next year with most of the roster returning, especially on defense.
Let's talk about a couple guys on defense that have a decision to make, Mekhi Wingo and Mason Smith. What do you expect for those guys over the next month?
Yeah, I do think that LSU has been a good position to potentially get those guys back. I mean, look, I think in Mason's case, you'd certainly love to see him back after really looked like he was just trying to find his sea legs again for most of the season, just couldn't really have much of an impact, on the interior that I'm sure he would have liked to. So I think he would be a really, great piece to get back into the fold on the interior line, and certainly Wingo as well. If you'd asked me this question before Mekhi got hurt and before he had to have surgery, I probably would have been in the camp of he's probably going to be going. But the fact that he had to have that season-ending surgery and will certainly be working himself back, I think, here over the next several weeks as well. I think LSU can make a really good pitch to him to come back for another year and continue to build that draft stock into a firm day two kind of earlier round kind of player. And LSU would welcome both of them back with open arms, and I think that they would, for continuity's sake, it would be a really, really good pairing to kind of have on that defensive line to build around.
Been a couple names that have trickled out that are going into the transfer portal from LSU. None, that are high-level starters for this program, but it's early in the transfer portal window here. What kind of attrition do you expect at LSU over the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, I think you'll certainly see some attrition in the secondary. I think certainly on the defensive line there'll be a couple guys that maybe didn't get the opportunity this year to maybe go play somewhere else. But maybe on the offensive line you'll see one guy or two guys go in. But I really do believe that LSU is going to be in a really good position. I think in terms of continuity wise. Brian Kelly was talking with us today, and he said in terms of snap count, there's going to be 10 of the top 11 guys returning for 2024. At least that's what they're counting on, and that's what they feel like they're in position to do. He didn't go into a whole lot of detail about whether that includes the super seniors who are probably don't have eligibility left to return. But if he wasn't, they really do believe that the underclassmen that they'll have back next year that got a lot of playing time will be back in 2024. That's a really, really good sign for this defense to kind of get another offseason to develop chemistry and develop that continuity on that side of the ball. You saw how much it worked for the offense last year, and I think the defense, will get into a more respectable position having another offseason together.
Let's change over to basketball. The last time we spoke, they were about to tip it off against Syracuse that night. You said you'd probably take Syracuse on that 1.5-point number. Quality bet there. But then they came back and got a win on Friday if it was unspectacular against Southeastern. So kind of your thoughts on where this entire basketball team is right now as they inch towards a big one on Saturday.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for that Jalen Cook news to come through. I mean, I think probably the biggest thing that we've learned over the last week was in Matt McMahon's last press conference with us, the media. Sounds like they feel good about the position that they're in, the case that they've made with Jalen Cook. I think we got more details from that than we have in the past about their case and just kind of what they feel are the odds that he could be back. And so I think it's just a waiting game right now. I think they've made the best pitch possible. And I think if they can get Jalen Cook back, they could be a definite competitor, I guess, in terms of the game-to-game basis. And when, offense finds its lulls in the half court, he's definitely somebody that I think can shake LSU out of some of those, rough spots throughout the course of the game. And so I think a lot of this hinges on Jalen Cook and whether or not they can get him back, but that's been something we've said now for several weeks. And so if they're able to get him back into the fold, I think they can certainly be more competitive here going forward.
What if they don't?
If not, if they don't, then I think you're going to see a lot of the same, a lot of stretches where it's a struggle on offense in particular, and then there's going to be some times where they look pretty confident and are able to kind of keep things close. And I will say when they've been in competitive games, they've fought to the bitter end, and that's a good quality to have because we know last year that wasn't always the case. So I do think that they've kind of solved some of those issues, but now you just got to get, I think, the team back to as close to full strength as possible and see if you can't try to build on some of these closer wins that you've been getting in the past.
You have any chance against Kansas State on Saturday?
I'm sorry, I missed that part.
Do you give them any chance to beat Kansas State on Saturday?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I don't think that they'll be favored by any stretch, but they, especially if they're able to get Cook back, we don't know yet what that situation will be. They're starting to hand out appeals. I mean, we just saw Musa Cisse get his appeal approved a couple, I think it was over a week ago now. So, I think that they'll have a shot in this game, but and the fact that it's at home will certainly help them a little bit. But Red Panda's in the house. We just got the news alert that Red Panda will be there, so lots of excitement on that one. But I think they'll have a chance.
All right, Glenn, we appreciate it. Thanks, man.
All right, thanks, Hunt.
Glenn West, senior writer, Go 24/7 for all your team coverage. He's got you covered on football, basketball, baseball as well. He does an awesome job, and he's with us every single Tuesday at 1:30. Second timeout. We'll come back. The AP's all SEC teams were announced, including the most outstanding player. You might have heard of him. We'll do that next.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show.
LWCC is Louisiana loyal, elevating and celebrating champions of Louisiana. Marucci Sports, a champion of Louisiana. Started right here in Baton Rouge in the backyard. All of a sudden, now among the industry leaders in baseball. Got their baseball performance lab. You're watching on YouTube, see my guy Anthony Rizzo taking some hacks. World Series champion, my captain, comes down here to Marucci to fine-tune his game and his equipment. And he's not alone. Dozens of big leaguers come into Baton Rouge to work with the folks over at Marucci. They've got such a great team they've assembled right here in our state, bringing elite talent to our state. They also bring tourism dollars to our state with their Marucci World Series each and every summer. Marucci Sports, surely a champion of Louisiana. If you know a champion of Louisiana, whether it's a nonprofit, a person, or a business, go to lwcc.com/champions and nominate that champion of Louisiana so that we can tell their story here on the Hunt Palmer Show. Marucci Sports, a champion of Louisiana. LWCC is Louisiana loyal.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
His name was King. He had a horse along the countryside. I saw him ride. One day they found him.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Hey, boat owners, check it out. It is the holiday season, which means it's time to buy yourself a gift by taking your boat to the next level with our friends at Front to Back Boat Service. Now is the perfect time to upgrade your boat and get it ready for that warmer weather, whether that's trolling motors, HD sonar, anything and everything. The Sherman family's been at it for 30 years, and Devin's going to take you through 30 more. Find them on Facebook at Front to Back Boat Service or go to fronttobackboatservice.com.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has $20,000 off MSRP on new 23 Ram 1500 trucks. $20,000 off plus no payments for 90 days on new 23 Ram 1500 trucks.
Voisin inviting you to join us Wednesday night at 6 for Louisiana Prep Weekly. We'll be live from Walk-Ons in Zachary with our special guest, Zachary head football coach David Brewerton. It's Louisiana Prep Weekly, Wednesday night at 6 on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Closing up hour one here on this Tuesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. The Associated Press revealed its first and second team all SEC teams yesterday, and they also named their award winners. Jaden Daniels, the unanimous Offensive Player of the Year. Nathaniel Watson from Mississippi State named Defensive Player of the Year. Caleb Downs, star in the secondary for Alabama, was named Newcomer of the Year. And then Coach of the Year, Eli Drinkwitz, was awarded the Coach of the Year. Saw couple people saying that Nick Saban or Kirby Smart deserved Coach of the Year. And I would listen to either one of those cases. I think Nick Saban did a fabulous job with Alabama this year. I think Kirby Smart did a fabulous job with Georgia this year. They just didn't play very well in the last game. And I think Eli Drinkwitz did an awesome job at Missouri. And quite frankly, Kirby Smart and Nick Saban will probably collect enough of these Coach of the Year awards over time. I think it's just fine to recognize a 10-2 Missouri team that just lost to LSU and Georgia. So I didn't have any issue with that at all. You look at the first team on offense, Malik Neighbors was a unanimous selection. Brian Thomas did not make the first team, Luther Burden instead, and I don't have a problem with that. I know Brian Thomas led the country in touchdowns, was absolutely fantastic, but Luther Burden was the go-to guy for Missouri. He was their passing game, and I think that him being a first-team player is just fine. No LSU offensive lineman on the first team. Cedric Van Pran was a unanimous pick at center. Brock Bowers was a unanimous pick at tight end. And unanimously, Cody Schrader, first team All-SEC, the D2 product at Missouri, who I looked at on tape before the LSU-Missouri game, and I was like, yeah, he's a little undersized, kind of fast. Don't really think much of him at all. LSU ought to be able to show some sort of effort on the defensive side of the football, and he ran for like 125 and a couple touchdowns that day and never really slowed down the entire season. Ray Davis from Kentucky was the other running back, but the only unanimous pick was Cody Schrader, which I think is incredible. On defense, it should come as a huge surprise. No LSU players on the first team defense. Edgerrin Cooper from Ponchatoula was a first-team pick at linebacker. Dallas Turner made the team as well. Kool-Aid McKinstry, as you would imagine, was on the team as well. The second-team offense, that's where you did find Brian Thomas from LSU. He was there with Xavier Legette from South Carolina. Will Campbell did make the second team at tackle, but no Emory Jones, no Charles Turner on, which I thought they might be able to make the team. They did not on the second team. And then you had Jalen Milroe as the second-team quarterback, Quinshon Judkins, and Jalen Wright from Tennessee were your running backs there. And on the second-team defense, once again, nobody from LSU, which you probably aren't surprised to learn. On that group, Landon Jackson, former LSU Tiger at defensive end for Arkansas, was on that. Jet Johnson from Mississippi State, who was just a tackling machine, was there. Terry Arnold had a really good year for Alabama at corner. As I mentioned, Caleb Downs was the newcomer of the year. He was also a second-team All-SEC tab there at safety for the Crimson Tide. So for LSU, the guys that I thought had a real chance to potentially make it, I thought Harold Perkins on name recognition might get there. He did not. I thought Emory Jones and Charles Turner had a chance to make it. They did not. Maybe Dellinger at guard, but they didn't put him on there either. LSU still in the running, I believe, for the Joe Moore Award, but none of the offensive linemen outside of Will Campbell on the second team were awarded. Brian Thomas, second team, then, of course, Jaden Daniels and Malik Neighbors there on the first team. LSU, just not a single guy listed on the defensive side of the ball. We'll talk about it. We will remember this season for a very, very long time. The Heisman Trophy will cement that, and I think we probably would have anyway, because I think we talk about the 13 team that had all that talent on the offensive side of the ball and put up all those numbers on the offensive side with Mettenberger and Jeremy Hill and Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry. They just weren't ready to go on defense that year, and that's what cost them in that season. And this year, I think that's even more pronounced because you're going to have the Heisman Trophy winner and possibly, even though probably not, but possibly Malik Neighbors might win Biletnikoff, and you could have a situation where you said you got the best player in the country and the best wide receiver in the country, and you lost 3 games because you look at these first and second team. Vanderbilt's putting guys on these teams, and LSU could not sniff the second team on defense. Arkansas, Mississippi State, Kentucky, Vanderbilt, they got guys on these teams, and LSU just couldn't figure it out on the defensive side of the ball. And I can't really come up with a guy that I think deserves those honors on the defensive side of the ball. It's tough. I thought that these were a pretty fair lot that was cast here by the Associated Press with the all-league team. So we'll see what the coaches think as we kind of move forward. That's it for hour number 1 here on a Tuesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. If you missed anything, you can catch it on demand, 1045ESPN.com's on demand tab, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Google, wherever you find your podcast, your audio, or in the YouTube's case, video, you can find our stuff. We opened with Brian Kelly and how LSU is going to use this month It's not just Wisconsin. They got transfer portal. They got exit interviews. They got to deal with the recruiting classes coming up. They've got to develop young talent. So I thought Brian Kelly gave some interesting insights there. At 1:15 today, and this will be up at the Hunt on LSU YouTube page, I talked about where I think LSU needs to go shopping in the portal, where you've got to get some additions into next year's football team. So that's findable any places I gave you, but also at Hunt on LSU on YouTube. Glenn West from Go 24/7 was with us talking football and basketball. Hour number 2, we're going to kick things off in hour 2 here with a story that Ross Dellinger wrote for Yahoo today with a new proposal for college athletics from the head of the NCAA that would really change the way things operate from a name, image, and likeness perspective. And I'll give my thoughts, as I always do, on what I think it means for LSU. Sharie, Isacks talking Saints and Pels in hour number 2. We'll hear more sound from Brian Kelly as well. Don't go anywhere. We'll pause for SportsCenter. We'll come back with hour number 2. It's a Tuesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
Bayou Ford has the new inventory to get you in a new Ford truck or SUV today, or customize your next vehicle just the way you want. All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
The world's leaders in obesity research, obesity medicine, and obesity science are right here.
We're doing something that no one's ever done or trying to answer a question that no one's ever asked before.
Pennington is a real jewel when it comes to research.
We are finding the solutions to the world's worst chronic disease, which is obesity. Louisiana needs Pennington Biomedical.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Hey, boat owners, check it out. It is the holiday season, which means it's time to buy yourself a gift by taking your boat to the next level with our friends at Front to Back Boat Service. Now is the perfect time to upgrade your boat and get it ready for that warmer weather, whether that's trolling motors, HD sonar, anything and everything. The Sherman family's been at it for 30 years, and Devin's going to take you through 30 more. Find them on Facebook at Front to Back Boat Service or go to fronttobackboatservice.com.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
Step inside an Infiniti QX50, and you'll find a suite of driver-focused features tailored to your tastes. But most of all, you'll find luxury that lets you feel infinitely you. Visit your local Infiniti retailer today.
At Relief Windows, we're more than windows. We're windows, doors, hardy plank, and vinyl siding. But our number one product is always customer satisfaction. Visit us online at reliefwindows.com.
His name was Cain. He had a horse along the countryside. I saw him ride. One day they found him.
This is SportsCenter.
I'm Christine Lisi. An update on Jaguars quarterback Trevor Lawrence today from coach Doug Peterson. High right ankle sprain, but escaped further damage. If he can't play Sunday, C.J. Beathard starts against the Browns. Jacksonville currently 4th in the AFC, up a game on the Texans and Colts in the AFC South. ESPN NFL insider Dan Graziano.
If Trevor Lawrence is out or limited, I think that puts them in a bad position with regard to their next two games, which are against the Browns and the Ravens. Two incredibly tough defenses and two AFC playoff contenders that are obviously playing for something. So I think they're in some trouble.
Dan Graziano on Carlin versus Joe. You heard him reference Pittsburgh is the 5th seed in the AFC. Cleveland's the 6th, and both of those teams are two back of AFC North leading Baltimore. Giants quarterback Tommy DeVito will start against the Packers Monday night. The Jets releasing quarterback Tim Boyle, who started the last two games. They're also signing Brett Rippon from Seattle's practice squad. Angels GM Perry Manassian putting to rest any speculation about Mike Trout, said they are 100% not trading their center fielder.
Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. They're close, convenient, and have the parts you need fast, along with excellent customer service from professional parts people you can trust. Stop by your local O'Reilly Auto Parts today or visit O'ReillyAuto.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I direct your attention to something quite extraordinary?
Now, the Hunt Palmer Show. The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour 2 on a Tuesday. Hope your work week's off to a good start. Appreciate you hanging out with us here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Hunt Palmer here with you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. Sharie, Isacks in 30 minutes talking Saints and Pelicans. I read a piece this morning by Ross Dellinger, who has become the foremost and preeminent reporter in college football to this point. He now works for Yahoo. He's bounced around a little bit, but he's with Yahoo, and he wrote a story today outlining a new proposal by NCAA President Charlie Baker. Baker took over for Mark Emmert, and he presented a forward-thinking proposal here that I find to be interesting for a number of reasons. I want to be clear before we get into the details of what this says. This is a proposal, and it's in its infancy. No major sweeping changes are coming down the pike in college football over the next 6 months, at least not as it's outlined here. This is something that is being discussed at this point. It's something that's being hinted at. It's something that's being floated about for feedback, not something that's going to be rubber stamped and moved forward in the next 3 weeks. We're not even close to that. However, I do believe that it is inching in a direction that we all know is inevitably coming. There will come a time where football splits off, or the group of 5 and the Power 4 split, or something of that nature is coming. I don't know if it's in 2025. I don't know if it's in 2030. I don't know if it's in 2035, but it's moving that way because the model that this thing operated under the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s no longer works. There are too many dollars and too many cents involved, and there is too great a disparity between the haves and have-nots to continue to function the way that we're functioning right now. And Charlie Baker, the head of the NCAA, knows this. So I'm going to toss out kind of the nuts and bolts here. If you want to know everything, go read Ross's story. It's up there on Yahoo. It's very well reported. It's well explained. It's well thought out, and it's detailed. So I've kind of picked out what I found to be important, and I'll kind of relay that to you and give my thoughts on it along the way. So some of this will be paraphrasing, some of it will be direct quotes from the story, but all of this comes directly from Ross. NCAA President Charlie Baker planning to introduce this week a proposal to create a new subdivision within Division I that grants certain schools more autonomy around policy making and permits them to compensate athletes in a new and profound way. To start here, schools under this proposal would be able to pay their own athletes. Right now, it's got to come from the collective, got to come from business owners and whoever is using athletes' name, image, and likeness. Now, the football program can do it. The school can do it. It's an opt-in deal. Schools that choose to be a part of the new subdivision are required to meet a strict minimum standard rooted in athletic investment. Every entry into the subdivision requires a school to invest at a minimum of $30,000 per year per athlete. This is football. This is basketball. This is golf. This is track. If you're in this subdivision, everybody that plays varsity sports on your campus starts at $30,000. That means over 4 years, that's a total of at least $120,000. Schools must continue to abide by the framework of Title IX, and that assures that 50% of the investment will be directed toward women athletes. This is where I think you get into trouble. Because there's no maximum that you can invest in a given student athlete. $30,000 is just the minimum. Okay, I've got Jaden Daniels. I'd like to give him $1.1 million. Change it around. Jaden Daniels is about to leave. I'll throw Harold Perkins into the mix. You want him to enter the transfer portal? No. I'd like to pay him. Okay, we're going to pay him. How are we going to pay him? Well, we want to give him, I'm throwing out ridiculous random numbers here, people. This is all made up. I'm just talking this through. We need to give him $1.1 million to keep him around. Okay, LSU's got $1.1 million, but that's going to a male athlete that plays football. That means if I'm going to pay Harold Perkins $1.1 million, I've got to pay the female athletes $1.1 million. Every dollar and cent you spend on male athletes, you have to spend on female athletes. And while LSU is in a unique situation compared to the rest of the country where you've got Olivia Dunn, who's made more than that, and Angel Reese, who's made more than that, and Haley Van Lith, who makes a good bit of money, you've got stars that are female athletes on this campus. I can't name one female athlete at the University of Alabama, not one. I don't know one. But if you're going to give, your star freshman safety, who I just told you was the newcomer of the year in college football, and you need to keep him around, and you're going to give him $1.5 million in Tuscaloosa, you got to find $1.5 to give to the women too. I don't have any problem giving women student athletes, but you realize that you're having to double your investment every time because this requires that 50% of the investment be directed toward women athletes. So that's where I think a lot of schools, you have to double every cent you spend on football players. Now, there are 133 FBS programs. 69 of them are in the Power 5. Some schools have 18 athletic programs, some have 35, but Ross says a sensible average in this story of athletes is about 350 to 400 at a given school. That's a sensible amount. Some have more, some have less. 350 to 400, that's a reasonable amount. So if you have to give each of them $30,000 at a baseline, that's $6 million right off the top. And then Ross gets into some budgets. Ohio, the Bobcats, not the Buckeyes. Ohio University's athletic budget is $29 million annually. $6 million is 21% of that budget. You think Ohio is ready to stand up and say, yeah, let's rock. 21% of our annual budget we're now giving to the athletes. That can't happen. Ohio State, their athletic budget is $251 million. That's $212 million more, $22 million more. They're going to sneeze at $6 million. And so now, not that Ohio and Ohio State were competing for the same athletes at any point, but it's a different world. You've now got every athlete at Ohio State making significant money for a college student, and Ohio's not going to be able to play the game. They're out of the subdivision. These two have split. And this is just an example inside the state. And you're looking at women's athletics, and Ross writes here, all the while, athletic departments must juggle compliance with Title IX by retaining women's athletic teams that generate very little revenue, often lose as much as $4 million a year. Here's where I think there could be some significant collateral damage. If some of these schools, I'm not speaking directly to Ohio, just some of these lower level schools say, we have to get into this subdivision. We're going to have to pay our football players $30,000 a year. That's not, in my opinion, going to turn into them finding the money to give out to the female athletics programs. I think they'll cut them. I lose $4 million a year on this women's athletic program. It's out. And I'll ditch the men's side too. We'll cut golf. We won't want run track. Wrestling's out. Cross country's done. Because we want to get in to this subdivision because football makes all the money because it's the only sport anybody watches. And our men's basketball and women's basketball can come along. But instead of this Title IX looking like, hey, we're going to create equality for men and women. The men get money and then we'll give all the women money. No, they'll just cut the bottom tier sports out, in my opinion, to try to get into this action on the football side. I mean, you look at some of these figures, 59 D1 schools spend $100 million on athletics, 59 of them. 32 spend over $50 million. So that's a total of 91 D1 schools that spend $50 million up. 259 spend less than $50 million, and half of that, so over 125, spend less than $25 million. On average, 1.8% of Power 5 athletic budgets subsidized by student fees. About 15% of budgets in the rest of D1 are funded by student fees. So, this is a new world where budgets that had been spent previously on coaching hires and facility upgrades and all of that, now those budgets are going to be earmarked not as much for buyouts and new lockers, for players, because at this point, the schools could pay the players. I haven't figured out in my head just how this affects LSU directly. My gut tells me that the LSU fan base and alumni base, donor base, is not prepared to keep up with Texas and A&M and some of these schools that I believe their collectives would be better funded than LSU's. But the athletic budget's pretty big and keeps getting bigger with the massive checks that the SEC Network writes and that ESPN writes and all that. So it's still one big pool, and you're still not where you need to be with those oil tycoon monster fan bases. So I can't quite tell where this would leave LSU. But I'm telling you that a product of this is going to be the destruction of some athletic programs at lower levels. Now, I'm not going to lose a lot of sleep over that because I don't spend much time thinking about the Ohio Bobcats. I don't know what it means for Louisiana Lafayette, Louisiana Monroe, La Tech. I'm not sure. And we're a long way, again, I think, from this being implemented. But the NCAA has been reactionary for so much of this, if not all of it. And finally, Charlie Baker said, well, let's try to be a little progressive here. Let's try to look forward and what might this look like. And I have no idea what university presidents, athletic directors, coaches think about this. But it's been presented to them. So we'll see inevitably what happens. But it's safe to say that college sports in 2030 is going to look almost nothing like college sports in 2005. Just got to keep up. Hope LSU does. Sharie Isacks with us coming up in 15 minutes. We'll hear some more sound from Brian Kelly coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boudreaux's Electric. Give them a call. Boudreaux's Electric. Neil and Melissa Boudreaux. Been running Boudreaux's Electric for 40 years. They're starting up a new location in Gonzales, first of the year, but the phone line already works. So give them a call at 225-300-9389. 225-300-9389. Get that Generac generator installed at your home, maybe at your office, maybe at a commercial property that you own to protect yourself from those power outages. Not all generators are created the same. Boudreaux's Electric can customize a generator to your exact needs, depending on square footage, what you need to be powered by that generator. Maybe it's a smaller, more modest one. Maybe you need the full meal deal, but you won't know unless you get Boudreaux's Electric out to go through the process with you. And when you get that generator installed, it's not going to be from some 1099 they just grabbed off the street. Everyone who installs a Boudreaux's Electric Generac generator is a full-time employee at Boudreaux's Electric, and all those generators come with a free 10-year warranty. Give them a call between now and Christmas. You will save money on your generator at Boudreaux's Electric if you tell them the Hunt Palmer Show sent you. Boudreaux's Electric, give them a call, 225-300-9389.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared toward seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985.
This Sunday, as we bring you 3 different NFL games, we'll kick things off with our noon kickoff. It's the Jaguars and Browns. Immediately following that, it's Bills and Chiefs, and then our nightcap, the Eagles at Cowboys. Tune in to hear all 3 of those games here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
It's Heisman Watch for LSU's Jaden Daniels, and we want to give you a front row seat live from Legends in New York City. Catch After Further Review with Matt Moscona Friday at 3 p.m. Then Saturday, Matt will host the Heisman Preview Show at 5 p.m. live on Eagle 98.1 and 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Our coverage is brought to you locally by Acura of Baton Rouge, Insurance Network of Louisiana, and Community Steel.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Lovely promo there, Mr. Beck. A little
you.
jealous of Matt. He's headed up to New York on Friday morning. He'll do AFR from Legends on Friday, and then he'll do a pre-Heisman show. And that's going to be a really cool time to be in New York. December is an awesome time in New York, and it's going to be, I think, a really, really good weekend for LSU's football program. And Brian Kelly talked about that this morning and congratulated his quarterback on being a finalist and headed up to the Big Apple.
Sorry, 1 second.
Gotta have those buttons ready to roll, Beck. Do we have it?
Jaden, obviously, as a finalist for the Heisman, certainly want to note that. Congratulations to him. That's an incredible achievement. He also was the winner of the Johnny Unitas Award, and there are others that are certainly out there pending that we believe he is a strong candidate for.
And it's a great time for Jaden Daniels, who's going to clean up a bunch of different awards. And I think when Burrow came through here and he left, it was like nothing any of us had ever seen. And I think the majority of the LSU fan base, if not all of it, quite frankly, kind of said, we're probably never going to see that again. It was really cool. And then I think we did a really good job of tempering expectations of Miles Brennan coming into the next year, which was bizarre anyway because of COVID. Like, look, it's not going to be like Burrow. Like, that's unrealistic. And then 4 years later, you've got a guy who transfers in, has a good junior season at LSU, comes back and sets the world on fire his final year in college and wins the Heisman Trophy. And I wonder if LSU fans aren't now going to start a little bit more willingly accepting this as a possibility with any quarterback that comes in. Well, a pretty good year, but maybe it could be like Burrow and Daniels' senior year. Because I don't think we did that after Burrow, but are we going to do that now if and when Jaden wins the Heisman? And Brian Kelly kind of spoke to Jaden Daniels' maturation during his time here in Baton Rouge.
He has not. He unfortunately had a death in the family and was gone for a few days. You hope and you want to design a culture and an atmosphere for your players on a day-to-day basis to be held accountable, to make good choices, and to be surrounded by others to do the same thing. And I think his time here has allowed him to strengthen his accountability, his choices, and that's what we have tried to put forth since we got here. And I think he's a product of that, and he's influenced others around him. So you know that you're making progress within your program when you see the maturation of a guy like Jaden Daniels, because not only does it happen off the field, it happens on the field.
Greg Lehman in the Bayou Ford chat says, Hunt, a lot of people talked about a second-year jump for Daniels. And I don't disagree with that. I think we all thought that he did a good job at the end of last year. He runs very well. He did a good job in the intermediate passing game. But could he push the ball down the field? I don't think anybody realistically hoped that Jaden Daniels would lead the country in passing efficiency, would be top 5 in the country in passing yards. If you did and you expected that and bet on it, then more power to you. And you had a lot better foresight than I did. But I wonder now if we won't take, because LSU's going to have a lot of transfer quarterbacks over the next 10 or 15 years. It just is what it is. Everybody is. And I wonder if we're not all going to be like, well, and almost expect that in August, like, hey, well, Burrow and Daniels, exploded their last year and became the first pick in the draft and the 6th pick in the draft and won Heisman trophies. Like, hey, anybody should do that.
It's like the LSU coaches. It's like the last 3 coaches have won championships. So that every LSU coach should win a championship, right?
Yeah, and I think that is a little more realistic than expecting guys to come out there and set a bunch of passing records all the time. But it's I'm curious if the expectation level may shift for some SEC quarterbacks. I think we heard the beginning of this next bite, but the question was, okay, has Jaden decided whether or not he's going to play in the bowl game?
He has not. He unfortunately had a death in the family and was gone for a few days. I spoke with him yesterday. He clearly knows the pros and the cons of this decision, and I do too, right? Who wouldn't want him to play? I mean, everybody would love to see Jaden Daniels play one last time. I mean, I'm a fan. I'm his coach, but I'm a fan of Jaden Daniels. But he's got to make, a decision, and clearly I see both sides of it. We'll provide him with all the things necessary for him to make an informed decision, but he hasn't got to that level yet.
Biggest deal here is the draft, right? And in September, I don't think Jaden Daniels was thought of as a first-round pick by almost anybody. And then you do what he did against Mississippi State, and you start to pile up big performances. And honestly, what he did in Tuscaloosa, and then what he did against Florida, and then you get more people that are starting to pay attention from a scouting perspective, and then all of a sudden after the Florida game where he's ripping off 85-yard touchdown runs and hitting deep balls in stride and putting up record performances, you started to see some mock drafts trickle out where you're seeing him in the top 15, you're seeing him inside the top 10. And at that point, I think you've put enough on tape. I'm not here to suggest that 4 quarters of football often makes a large difference in a player's draftability. I think 4 months does. I think you can really help yourself at the combine or a pro day if you're somebody that can test off the charts, not necessarily from a football perspective or a quarterback perspective. But I don't think there's anything more that Jaden Daniels can do. I think there was more he could do as of November 1st. I think as of now, you've pretty much done everything you can do from a draft perspective. Jaden Daniels wants to play. If he wants to be the guy that throws Malik Neighbors the pass that puts him over the all-time career yardage mark, I get it. If Jaden Daniels wants to get on the plane and go to Jacksonville and help Garrett Nussmeier out when he plays quarterback because he doesn't want to risk getting hurt, I get it. That's just where we are in college sports now. I would personally be very surprised if we see Jaden Daniels in this bowl game. And I think that this is going to be the start of the Garrett Nussmeier era against Wisconsin and moving into next year. But as I mentioned in the last segment, in the last hour, I would be, if I were LSU, I would be very active in trying to get a quarterback from the transfer portal. And Brian Kelly was asked, hey, do you need to talk to Garrett about whether or not you're going to go try to get another quarterback?
This is a world that we live in that has got to be handled with transparency. If not, you're going to find yourself without the right personnel. So if we were to ever do anything in the transfer portal relative to a quarterback, we're talking to everybody in that room. And we're talking to recruits. We're talking to everybody. It is about transparency. It's about honesty. And it's about saying, if we're doing that, here's why we're doing it. And then making a decision and doing it. Because, again, the most important thing here is what's in the best interest of LSU's football program, not what's in the best interest of a singular person.
I think that's exactly right. How well it works on each individual student athlete remains to be seen. But at this point, trying to pull a fast one on college athletes is going to be really difficult, really frowned upon, and may cause a butterfly effect that you don't have really any interest in. You have got to recruit the right types of people in terms of their mentality, and you've got to be as transparent as you can be. We have a football program here to run. Our job is to win football games and graduate champions. We're going to put the guys on the field that we think gives us the best opportunity. We have brought you here because we think you give us a great opportunity, but that doesn't mean we're stopping at your position. So keep practicing, keep developing, keep working. If you're the best, you'll play, and we're going to bring guys in to compete with you every single year. That's got to be the way that you handle it. You try to butter up to somebody and promise them something, but then make some phone calls and maybe bring this person in, but then you blindside the first guy. It's like it'll all blow up. There's too much power in the student athlete's hands to try to do that. So I think that my opinion is that Brian Kelly probably had some candid conversations last year in terms of Jaden Daniels staying or going to the NFL, in terms of Garrett Nussmeier, what his opportunity was, Walker Howard, what his opportunity was, and Ricky Collins, what his opportunity was. And they all had to take that information and understand what it meant. And in the end, Jaden decided he wanted to come back. Garrett was fine with that. He's been a really good teammate at this point. Everything we suggest, he's out there dancing and playing the guitar with Jaden Daniels and all that deal. And Walker Howard said, okay, with that information, I'm going to go look elsewhere. And he went to Ole Miss. I think that's the only way you can handle it at this point. And I think Brian Kelly's got a pretty good system on his hands there. So that's sound from Brian Kelly from earlier this morning. We got to transition to the Saints and the Pels. We'll do that next with Sharie.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show. Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge. Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust poll of the day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, live at lunch, Hunt Palmer. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the poll of the day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
Hurry into your local Acura dealer for the Season of Performance event going on now.
Hey, boat owners, check it out. It is the holiday season, which means it's time to buy yourself a gift by taking your boat to the next level with our friends at Front to Back Boat Service. Now is the perfect time to upgrade your boat and get it ready for that warmer weather, whether that's trolling motors, HD sonar, anything and everything. The Sherman family's been at it for 30 years, and Devin's going to take you through 30 more. Find them on Facebook at Front to Back Boat Service or go to fronttobackboatservice.com.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
At Relief Windows, we're more than windows. We're windows, doors, party plank, and vinyl siding. But our number one product is always customer satisfaction. Visit us online at reliefwindows.com. Oh, by the way, we do shutters too.
Step inside an Infiniti QX50, and you'll find a suite of driver-focused features tailored to your taste.
The Dome. It's state championship week in high school football, and we get things started at 6 with Louisiana Prep Preview presented by Brock. And at 7, it's the select Division I state championship game between the Catholic High Bears and Acadiana Wrecking Rams. All right here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Let's toss things on down to the 504. That's where we find our guy, Sharie Isacks from WDSU, joins us on the Gems Firearms Hotline. Sharie, how are you?
Drinking tons of whiskey at 2:30.
I hope you're not drinking too much whiskey. It's a little early
No,
for
I'm not
that.
drinking.
Good. Well, there's probably a lot of drinking going on in the Dome on Sunday. How was the environment on Sunday?
Yeah, drinking by a lot of Detroit Lions fans.
Yeah?
I mean, I told you last week what it would be like. Detroit would take over the Dome, and it'd be a lot of booing. And that's exactly what happened. Something I haven't seen. Now, look, when the Bills played here a couple years ago, the Cowboys and Dolphins, yeah, they had a lot of fans. The Bills, definitely. I think the last time I saw it like this was a Bills game 2 years ago. But this was different because I have not heard the booing like this since pre-Katrina. I told you it was coming, and it definitely happened, and it happened a lot for the offense, and specifically Derek Carr. It was bad, man. This is the worst I've ever seen it. I mean, no joke. This is so bad. I mean, worse since pre-Katrina. I mean, this was awful. I mean, the game was boring. I mean, it wasn't boring, but I mean, just bad game for the Saints, good game for the Lions. Just the dome itself was just taken over by another team. It's stuff that shouldn't happen. And look, I understand the fans are upset, frustrated. It hasn't been dome field advantage, and they just need something different. They need a different product to cheer for.
How much of the booing for Carr is because of his play? How much is because of his comments in the media?
I think it's a little bit of everything. You paid a guy, the $150 million. He's making $37 a year. The comments have just gotten, it's kind of rubbed people the wrong way. His play was awful to start the game, but then, to give him credit, I know people will just want to destroy Carr. That interception wasn't on him.
No.
Juwan Johnson's going to catch the ball, but Michael Thomas, who was tweeting about it, A.T. Perry, was open in the post route down the field on that play. But he completed 14 of 15 passes before getting knocked out of the game. Some of the stuff wasn't on him, some was on him, but it's who he is. He's an average quarterback, but just making a lot of money being an average quarterback.
What is next for the Saints over the next couple of weeks at quarterback? What do we expect from Derek Carr? Can he play? Do we think there's going to be a Jameis Winston? Do we think Taysom Hill has a chance to take 50% of the snaps? Like, what does quarterback look like for the New Orleans Saints moving forward?
I'd be a little shocked if Derek Carr plays this week. I think it'd be Jameis taking the starting quarterback reps all week during practice, and they'll try to see if Derek can play, but at this point, just let Jameis Winston play. He's the guy's too banged up. I mean, I know Dennis wasn't too happy with the questioning after the game. If, hey, you benched Winston last year because of the injuries, will you do the same? And he kept saying, no, it's not the same thing. It's not the same thing. We'll evaluate it. I'm not sure he liked the question, but he's beat up. The back, ribs, shoulder, concussion twice in the last 3 weeks. I just don't see him playing. And then see Jameis with a mix of Taysom. Man, let me tell you something. That Taysom, Derek Carr in and out, the boos and cheers, that just goes to tell you, man, it's just not a good. They're not in a good place right now.
How do you feel about the Saints fans and expressing themselves that way? I've given my thoughts on it. I don't think it makes any sense, but what do you think about guys that going out there playing hurt, trying to give everything he's got, and every time he comes off the sideline, he just gets hellaciously booed?
I just think that if they reach their point, they'll reach their frustration because it isn't a consistently good thing. Hunt, when you pay a guy that much money, you have this easy of a schedule. It shouldn't be this way. It shouldn't be this inconsistent. When Baker Mayfield has better numbers than you and he's not making a tenth of what you're making, the fans are going to be frustrated. I mean, they pay good money to come, support the team. They've been loyal throughout the years. Now, they did start to cheer a little bit more whenever the game, they were down 21-0, and they started going on tempo, and he started making a lot of plays. Yeah, they cheered. Those boos turned into cheers, but they're still frustrated. And they have the right to do what they want to do. Like Tyrann Mathieu said after the game, we have to change that narrative. We have to give them something to cheer about, and we're not doing that right now. They all echoed the same thing Tyrann Mathieu said.
Do you think they can?
I mean, look. I mean, what are they playing for, Hunt? Honestly,
The
even
South.
Even if they somehow, miraculously won the NFC South, which is a miserable division back-to-back years, where are they going? Where are they going after this year? Who cares about this year? This year means nothing. Absolutely, you're going to get destroyed by somebody in the first round if you accidentally win the NFC South. Whether it to be the Cowboys or Seahawks or Vikings, I don't know. I mean, where is this team going? This is not setting up for something down the road. This is just not a good look at it. It'll put a little Band-Aid on the wound for a little bit if you win the NFC South. But if you can't beat the Panthers and Giants at home, and the bigger discussions are going to be had. I really think bigger discussions are going to be had once the season is over.
You welcoming in a team in Carolina that's already fired their coach and they're awful. What if they lose on Sunday?
We're going to be having those discussions much sooner than later.
Yeah.
You're going to have a lot of discussions sooner rather than later. And boy, if you lose to the Panthers, 1-11 Panthers, I just don't know. I don't know what it's going to be like in that post game press conference. It's going to be hell. I can assure you that. That's something Mickey Loomis is going to have to deal with if that were to happen, and it's not pretty at all. I mean, it happened last year when they lost to the Panthers in Carolina to Baker Mayfield, and that team was awful. So losing to an even more awful team, I wouldn't be surprised if some kind of decisions are made. I wouldn't say that Dennis Allen would be fired, but there might be some other decisions made. It's gotten to that point, Hunt. I mean, there are no more games. The games, you got 5 left. There are no more excuses left. You were given an easy schedule. You were given the quarterback you want. You got a chance to pick all your assistant coaches, and you're 5-7. That's inexcusable. And I think everyone in that locker room, coaches, Mickey Loomis, Gail Benson, will all tell you it's inexcusable. It shouldn't be this bad.
What did you think about Dennis Allen's opening statement on Sunday, where he said that that there was a lot of positive we can take from that? I realize there's no moral victories in our league, but there's some things we really liked. I mean, what did you think about that?
I just shook my head a little bit. I'm like, I mean, how could you say that? What positives are you taking from that? You gave up 21 points in a matter of
6 minutes,
7 minutes, 6.5 minutes. I mean, I don't know what positives you take from that. I mean, you get the positive you can say is they had good fights. They fought back in it. They made it a 24-21 game. They made it close at least, but the Lions kind of took their foot off the pedal a little bit there, and and the Saints took advantage of it a little bit. Then I think you could say the fight. And Derek, I think Derek Carr fed off the booze. It kind of went up tempo. He started making some good plays, started making some good passes, but there were times when he still held the ball too long. The defense, they've only had one. They had one sack. Zach Vaughn had his first career sack. It's 2 of the last 3 games they haven't had a turnover. It's starting to age on you. You're starting to see that they're getting a little older. They're getting a little beat up. There's very little positives. I'm trying to keep it professional and spin it as professional as possible. But when you're 5-7, there's not really much to spin.
And you got the oldest roster in the NFL, and it looks like you may have messed up at quarterback. So it's a bleak outlook for the black and gold at this point. Sharie Isacks, our guest, WDSU down in New Orleans. The Pelicans are showing some life in the in-season tournament, which I don't even think I knew about as of a month ago. They're healthy, and they're playing pretty good.
They're getting a lot of national love. Today, you're getting ESPN, you're getting Pat McAfee shows calling this the deepest team in the NBA. And 1 through 11 or 12, yeah, they are. They're deep. And every time you ask me about them before the season starts, it's like, hey, Hunt, as long as they stay healthy. And right now they're healthy. Now if they're healthy, in March and April, and they're playing this way, watch out. Yeah, they're going to be very good. And I think the best player on the team right now has been Herb Jones. Everything he does on both ends of the court. And look, you saw what he did last night. The amount of defense he was playing on their better players, and he was making shots, not just driving. He was making shots and, being aggressive. And the same goes for Brandon Ingram. Brandon Ingram, whenever national television is around, he plays some of the best basketball I've ever seen out of him. He was aggressive when it comes to scoring, rebounding, and passing the ball. And, and they did this with Zion having 10 points. Imagine if he were to chip in with 10 more points. It's a dangerous team. It is such a dangerous team, and they fought back from 15 points. And when it got scary late, C.J. McCollum was also making clutch baskets. So you're starting to see what could be with this team, Hunt, what could be if they stay healthy, if this is March and April.
Would you rather play the Suns or the Lakers?
Lakers take care of business against a team that you're kind of sick of over the years. Just go ahead and get the championship game, knock them out. I don't know if they're going to be able to beat the Suns for a third time this season. It's going to be a good game tonight, but I'd love to see the Lakers.
We'll see. Pels into the semis of the in-season tournament. Sharif Isaac covers them down there for WDSU. Sharif, thanks, man.
Hopefully next week it's a lot of positives and not just one team positive on the Pelicans.
We'll have to see. I don't have a lot of confidence, but we'll just have to see.
It is what it is.
He is Sharif Isaac from WDSU. Take one more time out and close things up. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Jersey Mike's, Highway 30 in Gonzales near the new Heritage Shopping Center. Club sub, fantastic. Fresh sliced turkey and ham and bacon right there in front of you to order, and they bake their bread fresh every single day. Also, always tell you about that original Italian with the ham, prosciutto, capicola, salami, pepperoni, and provolone. Awesome stuff over there at Jersey Mike's, and we want to remind you always about their catering packages, whether it's feeding your office for a holiday party, whether it's a birthday party, whether it's just a big family, you got a Hester-sized family, you feel like just that's a catering order. Jersey Mike's fantastic on the catering side, especially our friends Highway 30 in Gonzales. They can do individual box lunches. They can do 12 sub boxes that are delivered. They delivered us one a couple weeks ago. It was gone in about 8 minutes. It's great stuff over there at Jersey Mike's. And if you do get a catering order, get that cookie or brownie platter. Delicious stuff over there at Jersey Mike's. Download the app. Catch them on DoorDash. Visit our store, Highway 30 in Gonzales. Jersey Mike's, a sub above.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
The importance of doing this fortified program and offering it to people down here is, number one, the only real chance you're going to get to do this is when you put on a new roof or build new. And through companies like HUDCO, who's kind of leading the way in this thing, it's going to offer the customers a huge advantage in the insurance market and the price of their insurance.
You know, we're not looking to make a fortune off fortifying. We're trying to give you a better product than our competitor at the moment. I'm trying to do something that he can. I'm trying to give you something better. So a lot of these insurance jobs, you're getting a re-roof, you're only paying your deductible. Let's sit down and talk about the fortified and let's see what it does to your insurance premium. You're getting a steal.
Yeah.
You're getting a brand new roof and a fortified certificate for your deductible, essentially. I think we're rocking and rolling.
Hey, boat owners, check it out. It is the holiday season, which means it's time to buy yourself a gift by taking your boat to the next level with our friends at Front to Back Boat Service. Now is the perfect time to upgrade your boat and get it ready for that warmer weather, whether that's trolling motors, HD sonar, anything and everything. The Sherman family's been at it for 30 years, and Devin's going to take you through 30 more. Find them on Facebook at Front to Back Boat Service or go to fronttobackboatservice.com.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Moscona inviting you to join us for Tuesday's AFR, powered by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana. Brian Kelly meets with reporters to update bowl prep and the portal latest. And Sean Salisbury joins us. It's AFR 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
All right, winding down on a Tuesday. If you're looking for something to do tonight, Plucker Sports Trivia, 8:30 Nicholson location. Grab a team, come by yourself. We always have a good time. 8:30 Nicholson location. You can win Plucker's gift cards, drink some delicious cold beers, eat some awesome wings, and just enjoy general merriment over there at Plucker's, which we always do on Tuesdays. 8:30, have you out of there by 10. Hope to see y'all out there tonight. Jacob Beck, let's play some Take It or Leave It.
All right, first one here. The MLB Draft Lottery is today at 4:30.
Mm-hmm.
The Cubs have a 0.2% chance to land the number 1 overall pick. You believe in miracles. Take it or leave it.
That's 2 out of 1,000. That doesn't feel great. But yes, I believe in miracles. I will take the number 1 pick. I don't think the number 1 pick's coming from LSU this year. It could. Thatcher Hurd, theoretically, I guess, could explode up the charts and become the number 1 pick. But I would love it if the Cubs got the number 1 pick. I just feel like 2 out of 1,000, not a great chance. But there's a couple of dominoes that could fall where the Cubs could move up towards the 10th pick, which would be good. We'll see. I'll check it out at 4:30.
I was watching this. I meant to text you yesterday, but the Jacksonville Jaguars, they lost last night.
They did.
And you picked them in
I
your
did.
Survivor pick.
I
So the Jags busted your Survivor run for 12 weeks. Take it or leave it.
So I beat you by 12 weeks. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. I
beat you
lost
by
in the
12
first
weeks.
week by
Pretty
picking
good.
the Vikings against the Buccaneers.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Nice job there.
Yep.
Look, that's as good as I can do. I can't. I don't think I'll ever go 13 weeks in a Survivor pool.
It was an impressive run.
It was a nice run. We studied the board each and every week.
The one with the Saints 1 week, that was very impressive.
I mean, look, Tyson Bagent, if they can't beat him, it's pathetic. What would I go with this week with Survivor? Let's see what's on the docket for the NFL this week, and if there was a slam dunk pick, although I thought that was a slam dunk pick last night, and then Lawrence got hurt. I like the Steelers, but I've already used them. Already used the Lions. Don't like anything there. The Browns. Have I used the Browns yet?
I don't think you used the Browns.
I have not used the Browns
they're
yet.
The Rams.
They're at home against the Jaguars, who I don't think will have Lawrence. So that would be a very tempting pick for me. And then I've taken the Ravens, though. Yeah, I think that'd be where I go this week. I would take I would be taking the Browns this week. But it's all over, so we don't have to worry about that.
Doesn't matter anymore.
It's over. A 12-week run, solid work. But we'll see what we can do next year.
Astro general manager said they are not interested in trading Alex Bregman and called him a pillar, quote, of the organization. Take it or leave it.
I'll take it. He's been fantastic for them. We know he was great here. Such a clutch hitter here. Turned into a great defender at shortstop after not really being a high school shortstop. He didn't hit for a ton of power here, and he found that at the professional level and has carried that on. They've had guys come and go in Houston. They had Correa come and go. Springer came and went, but Altuve and Bregman have kind of been the guys who have been there the whole time for this push. And you've got Alvarez, who's blossomed into a star there, and you had Verlander and Greinke come in and come out and kind of bounced a different number of guys in and out. But Bregman and Altuve have kind of been in the middle of the whole thing, and they're not very tall, but they can really play. And so it's cool that Bregman's found a home. It's cool, I think, that a lot of LSU fans are Astros fan and have been able to kind of continue that moving forward with pulling for him. And I don't know that I would call him on a Hall of Fame trajectory now, but he's certainly he's a perennial all-star and a guy who's going to be a multi-time world champion. So that's a cool deal for him.
I think it's helped that he hasn't had a MVP caliber season where other teams, where he'd have a super high value because the Astros are known for not giving out very large contracts. So it's kind of been perfect for him where he's been really good, but not on a super MVP level.
And I think he likes it there in Houston. So good for him.
All right, last one here. Pickleball. Take it or leave it.
It's on ESPN2 right now in our studio. I've never played pickleball. I've got some friends who have gotten into it.
I played it a little bit.
Have you?
Yeah.
I am awful at tennis. I played a little tennis growing up. I'm terrible at it now.
I will say it doesn't matter because I also never played tennis. I mean, anytime I ever did, I was terrible. Pickleball is a lot easier to pick up. It's kind of like more like ping pong.
Right,
if you ever
and
played
I'm
that.
decent at ping pong.
Yeah, so you should have a good chance at it.
I would think I'd be decent. I did hear, I can't back this up, so I have no idea. But I did hear the #1 pickleball player in the world lost to Scottie Scheffler.
He did. It was actually they were doing mixed doubles.
Okay.
And and Scottie Scheffler was playing. Well, so the Scottie Scheffler I think was playing with the best women's player, and then the guy who's the #1 men's player was playing with someone else. It was another celebrity was there. I think it was either Jason Kidd or something like that. But yeah, they were playing against each other. And actually, I was watching that match. Funnily enough, it was just happened to be on TV. And Scheffler hit some good shots, man. He was pretty athletic out there.
I'm sure he did. That's a pretty coordinated dude to get that swing path and get everything lined up the way he does. So I'll take it for pickleball, even though I never played it. I don't know if I'm going to watch it on ESPN, though. That'll do it for a Tuesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. If you missed any of it, catch it on demand. 1045ESPN.com's on demand tab, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google. Wherever you find your audio, you can find us. Just search Hunt Palmer Show. And you can certainly find us on YouTube as well. Thanks to Glenn West of Go 24/7 for jumping aboard. Sharie Isacks as well. We're done here. Matt's going to drive you home one after further review. We will see you tomorrow, same time and same place. You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust Poll of the Day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, live at lunch, Hunt Palmer. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the Poll of the Day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
There it is, the extra mile. On the border of expected and extraordinary. For those willing to go further. Like vans customized for work or play. With safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
It was a humid day. Barefoot children play. Looking for that summer shade. Time just slips away. Oh, Louisiana, some kind of hold on me. Like cypress stumps, your roots are planted deep inside of me.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal. A movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our